This week at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., a panel of experts on the Tutsi genocide addressed what they called lies by people, including renowned scholars and NGOs, who denied that the genocide in Rwanda ever took place. Tom Dahiro, a scholar on the Tutsi genocide, says that there is a common thread among genocide deniers.
Without exception, reading through the text of genocide deniers, there is a consistent mixture of falsehoods, half-truths to produce blah blah and lies.
Genocide denial, by definition, occurs when an act of genocide is met with effort to deny the occurrence and minimize the scale or death toll. Experts say that denial is the final stage of genocide development. Gregory Stanton, the founder of Genocide Watch, stated that denial is the 8th stage that follows a genocide. Dr. Linda Melvin is an author. She has written extensively on the topic. She debunks some of the defense strategies used by lawyers representing genocide suspects.
And it is the foundation stone of the defense case in Arusha. And it is this, that the RPF on the 6th of April 1994 assassinated President Habyarimana. This is their foundation stone at the ICTR, that the victims brought the genocide upon themselves, that there was a spontaneous uprising of Hutu because the RPF had shot down President Habyarimana's plane. There is not one shred of credible evidence that this is the case. Not one. There has been a French report by a French investigating magistrate called Jean-Louis Bruguière, and he relied on a series of witnesses, so-called informers, who, as former RPF officers, claimed to have heard the plot discussed by President Kagame through an open window. These witnesses were granted asylum in Norway, and they have since then retracted their testimony. They have retracted their testimony. The missile casings upon which Jean-Louis Bruguière relied turned out to have been provided to his inquiry by Colonel Theonest Bagosora, who is a prime suspect in the assassination of President Habyarimana.
Rwanda's ambassador to the U.S., James Chimonyo, says that more efforts need to be made to bring to justice suspects hiding in communities around the world.
It's very critical for us as Rwandans, but also with friends, to fight all the deniers, different categories, the deniers who try to deny genocide as a cover because of what they did. They are perpetrators of genocide, so for obvious reasons they're going to defend themselves. So those that committed the crime itself should be brought to justice, and I think we are seeing a lot of results in terms of working with different governments to apprehend and bring some of the perpetrators to justice. We are pushing, and we've been talking to the government here, and our government is talking to different governments around the world to make sure that these people are brought to justice.
Tom Dahiro warns that there are members of academia who engage in genocide denial just as a way of separating themselves from the crowd.
Two, there are people who engage in denialism because of trying to be different. And this, you find it in a category of academics, trying to get another narrative.
Dr. Tim Gallimore is the Assistant Commissioner for Academic Affairs at the Missouri Department of Higher Education. He previously worked as a spokesperson for the International Criminal Court in Arusha. He says that the deniers often cite shoddy research based on questionable data by such academics.
But to say that the group that was identified for extermination somehow provoked the actors into carrying out genocide, And you start to look at, Professor Melbourne said about the farce of this. Oh, if there's no genocide, then how could you provoke it? And even so, provocation is not a crime, but committing genocide is. And so they find these individuals with an agenda, political and otherwise, to do so-called research and give expert opinions on some of these things that are admitted. Now, the tragedy of that is that many times it doesn't get confronted or refuted. The document is out there, it's circulated, they introduce it as evidence, and then they start to cite to it. Whether or not it's accepted as credible evidence, they're saying in Military One, here's this report from this esteemed professor saying thus and so. And so the whole propaganda campaign, if you will, goes on. So in many respects, because of the rules of law and evidence and how the tribunal operates and how those who are in charge of it allows it to operate, by trying to maintain, again, this neutral position, as Western journalists do, many times they end up being supporters of these positions and of genocide ideology.